And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with your host, Susie Ross.
Hello, I'm Susie Ross. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. This week, we're visiting some of this year's Regional Environmental Stewardship Award winners. Let's take a look.
In the big open country of the Roaring Springs Ranch in southeast Oregon, cattle graze on range that slopes up from the floor of the Cattlemen Valley to more than 7,500 feet in elevation. With a long history, the ranch had been in decline until it was bought by the Sanders family in 1992.
It was our philosophy kind of coming in and looking at things in that a healthy resource is good economics. And we didn't see them as mutually exclusive at all, but actually closely tied together and dependent upon one another.
The healthier the environment we have, the more it produces. And the more economically stable we are, the more we're able to put back into the land and the more we're able to focus on environmental health.
Stacy Davies joined Roaring Springs Ranch as manager in 1997. Since then, the Sanders family has relied on Stacy to put their vision into practice.
We want long-term sustainability, and we see sustainability being a three-part mission. There's social sustainability, economic sustainability, and environmental sustainability.
Stacy has an incredible passion for what he does. He loves those cows, and his idea of a perfect vacation is to drive and look at the neighbors' cows and see how they compare with how ours are and what they're doing that he could incorporate.
So he came with his energy and his knowledge, started implementing some of these changes in management. The ranch has thrived ever since.
Today, Roaring Springs Ranch includes a mix of private and public lands, totaling more than 1 million acres. It's a cow-calf and yearling operation with more than 6,200 cows making their home on this range year-round.
This ranch, because of the ecological diversity and the diversity in topography and elevations, we're able to graze year-round on high-quality forage. That allows us to be a low-cost producer, an economically viable, sustainable producer.
A significant portion of the ranch is leased from the Bureau of Land Management, which has worked closely with Stacy on a number of improvements, including using fire and other means to fight invasive juniper trees.
Wildlife are dependent on different kinds of plant species for food and cover. And so when you have just one species like juniper, you lose your habitat values. And you lose your values for livestock and other species because it'll remove all the forage.
And yes, we need fire to control the junipers, to control the sage, and invigorate the grassland, the native perennial grasses that are so important to us.
By using fire, reseeding native perennial grasses, and making changes in grazing timing, the ranch's forage productivity has doubled. Stacy has also improved the ranch's riparian areas and streams and tackled a major challenge in protecting fish.
One of the key environmental issues when I came to the ranch was the potential listing of the red band trout as an endangered species.
To be proactive, the ranch entered into a conservation agreement with federal and state agencies to take steps to remove threats to the red band trout.
We came in with our biological knowledge to mesh it with the ranching knowledge that the ranch had and try to come up with some solutions to protect the fish as well as and still meet the goals of the ranch for ranching purposes.
The end result is that the streams have improved, water quality has improved, fish populations have improved, and we've met many of our original goals of improving the fish habitat and increasing fish population.
With these efforts, the endangered species designation was avoided. Though their land is vast, Stacy and his crew are continually working on the details that allow cattle and the environment to be in balance together, preserving the history and the future of the Roaring Springs Ranch.
My vision would be that we could better bridge the gap to our urban friends, that what we do is good for the environment and what we do benefits them. Having good stewards on the land is better than not having anyone on the land. And our goal is to be good stewards.
Proud of the crew, proud of Stacy, and the fact that you can take a a ranch like this that wasn't economically viable and bring it to that viability and accomplish good things on the ground at the same time, benefit the resource.
Managing this ranch, living on this ranch is an absolute dream come true. It's as close to heaven as I think I could ever get.
Patience may be a virtue, but when cattle are down with shipping fever, you don't have time to be patient. And that's why Baytril 100 was designed specifically for first-line treatment of bovine respiratory disease. For use by or on the order of a licensed veterinarian, extra label use in food-producing animals is prohibited. Ask your veterinarian for more information. When it's BRD, patience isn't an option. Choose Baytril 100, right the first time.
2 100% pure USDA inspected patties are only the beginning of what make the Big Mac famous, and that's what we're made of.
Tucked into the Sacramento Valley of Northern California, Yolo Land and Cattle Company was founded by Hank Stone in 1976. Running cattle on more than 7,400 acres at the home ranch. The operation today includes Hank's 2 sons and their families.
I'm very fortunate to have 2 sons who've taken to it so well and are very proficient in what they do. And I find that to be very rare in agriculture today, to have family members to continue the operation.
Our basic philosophy has been that take care of the land and the land will take care of you. And we want to have a sustainable operation that benefits the families that operate the land, it benefits the wildlife that lives on the land, and benefits the livestock that live on the land.
Through all of our efforts and our kids being here with us, it's given them an opportunity to learn about stewardship and to learn about the environment and how important it is and why we do it. And I know that our kids are starting to get it.
Working to be environmentally and economically sustainable, the Stones have built a diversified operation that includes more than 700 cows and hay and crop production. In addition, with major cities nearby, the ranch includes an agritourism division, and they've even developed their own beef jerky and honey products.
Each one of the family members brings something different into the atmosphere and into the business. We each have our strengths, and it is nice to be able to kind of be on the creative side as far as the marketing and the distribution.
With rainfall under 24 inches per year, the Stones have made extensive use of irrigated pasture. They reuse rinse water that comes from a local tomato cannery to intensively graze their herd and hold them off native pasture at critical times.
This year is probably one of the worst we've faced since we've owned the ranch, just because of the drought conditions. It's pretty tough when you don't have water to try to make these things happen.
To manage their rangelands, the Stones have added cross-fencing to implement rotational grazing. They've worked with Dow AgroSciences to develop herbicides to control yellow star thistle and other invasive weeds. And they've partnered with NRCS on a number of projects, including the restoration of native plants and the use of solar power to pump water.
Around here we have a drought 6 months of the year. So everything that's planted, the native trees and shrubs, have to have supplemental water through a drip system. And the Stones do a very good job of participating in our cost share programs to establish these native trees, these native shrubs.
We have been blessed with wonderful partners over the years, or we wouldn't be able to do a fraction of what we get done out here.
It's encouraging to see that things are evolving around these ponds, and that is actually increasing the wildlife density on the ranch.
Perhaps most impressive is the decision the Stone family made to place their home ranch in a conservation easement held by the California Rangeland Trust, meaning this land will always be a working cattle ranch.
That's probably something I'm the most proud of. I'm a land conservationist, great supporter of protecting ag land. So to me, that is the ultimate measure you can take to protect your property, is to put it in a conservation easement.
I think that it's going to save some of the better California rangeland and in areas like we are, close to population density areas, that to get tremendous pressure for development. And like I tell everyone, if we didn't do that, 10 years from now you'd see houses and lights all over this mountain.
Whether it's protecting rangeland from development, raising high-quality cattle, or sharing the story of ranching with visitors, It's clear each member of the Stone family is doing their part to keep the Yolo Land and Cattle Company sustainable, now and in the future.
Well, I'm proud of what my sons have done, the changes we've made, the things we're trying to do.
I'm very proud of what our family has done on the ranch. My dad and my grandpa and my uncle work incredibly hard.
And so our hope is, my hope is to keep this place as a working cattle ranch and keep a viable working cattle industry that can support these type of ranches.
We are simply short-term tenants on this planet, and we have an obligation to leave the ranch in better condition for our next generation, and that's what this is all about.
Fort Dodge Animal Health knows your animals are an important part of your way of life. That's why we're committed to providing you with a complete family of livestock vaccines and pharmaceuticals to protect your investments, save you time, and ensure quality and safety in your operation. Your herd and your horses are important to you. That's why they're important to us. Fort Dodge Animal Health. For more information on our entire family of livestock products, visit us online.
Nearly 7,000 acres make up the Alexander Ranch, located in the Red Hills of south central Kansas. Here, cattle thrive on the grass, nurtured with expert care by Ted Alexander, who has an unusual way of describing his operation.
Oh, I like to introduce myself as Ted Alexander. I'm a used sunlight salesman. It kind of is a different approach to harvesting grass. You know, instead of being a grass farmer, I'm a used sunlight salesman.
Selling used sunlight in the form of grass for cattle has worked out well for Ted. He founded his custom grazing operation in 1984 after a career as an art educator. Today, several long-term customers rely on Ted to provide spring and summer forage for their herds.
The reason we come here to Ted's place is because he has an understanding of rotational grazing and grass management, and he also does a great job of handling the cattle.
I graze their cows by the head by the day, and they wean their calves late in around the 15th of August, 1st September. The calves are gone, and that lowers my stocking rate at a critical time. So that works for me, it works for them.
You wouldn't know it now, but when Ted started, this land was more than 75% covered by eastern red cedar trees, an invasive species that crowded out native grasses. Ted controlled the red cedars using fire and other means, transforming his ranch.
I have about a 10 to 15% cedars, and it's mostly in my canyons that fire hasn't been able to carry through. The forage production, I've come up to close to 150% more stock than I used to carry. I keep more of the water on the ranch. I've got canyons now that are flowing water, springs that are flowing. The forage production has just exploded over the last 15 to 20 years.
An early adopter of rotational grazing, Ted ranched on his own for many years. Now his son Brian has returned to be a part of the operation.
While I was still in the military, about halfway through my 8.5-year service, I decided I wanted to come back here and be a part of my dad's dream and live close to the land. And part of that is helping regenerate the land and living close to it and trying to live in harmony with nature and not fight against the system.
Working cattle in harmony with nature is a fundamental principle on Alexander Ranch. For example, Ted has a detailed drought plan that guides his effort to balance grass growth with stocking rates. And he's working with the Fish and Wildlife Service to protect habitat for threatened species, including a fish known as the arc darter.
One of the projects that we're hoping to do this summer and this winter would be to come in and try to remove some of these cedar trees and open that up and hopefully provide better in-stream vegetation for these fish to survive.
Over the years, NRCS partnerships have helped Ted refine his rangeland management, create new ponds on the ranch, and make use of solar power to pump water to stock tanks.
Of course, the solar system then is a great thing to put the water away from any of the riparian areas or any of the streams so that those can grow grass rather than being bare from the cattle walking in it all the time.
Clean the solar panel, turn it on, it's free energy. Because of where I live, there aren't any power lines. All of my electric fences are powered by solar energizers with deep cycle batteries, so I use I use a lot of solar power.
When you look at what he has done as far as stewardship on his own ranch, the impacts are far greater and far wider than just what happens inside his boundaries. Because he's been willing to share, thousands of acres have benefited because others have been able to learn from his success.
In fact, Ted's willingness to share his knowledge and invest time in mentoring other producers is another aspect of his stewardship.
He's just more than willing to help other ranchers, and he doesn't keep all the knowledge that he's gained over the past 20-some years to himself. He really wants to see other ranchers succeed, and that means the world to me.
Though he left his art career behind, for the past 23 years, Ted Alexander has been working to build his masterpiece of ranching stewardship.
This is the work in process. Will it ever finish? No, no. It'll never finish. And I hope that legacy moves on to my boy and to all the young guys and young ladies that I've been fortunate, gifted to have in this community to mentor and to communicate with.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain minerals special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
Rush to Reno. The 2008 Cattle Industry Annual Convention and Trade Show. For fun, for education, for new ideas. For more information, visit beefusa.org.
Welcome back. Nolan Ryan is going to bat for beef. This summer, the baseball great traveled to Japan with the U.S. Meat Export Federation to promote beef in the country. Reporter Brian Baxter has more.
The month of July marked 30 years of U.S. Meat Export Federation work in Japan promoting U.S. beef and pork to Japanese consumers.
We're very excited about U.S. Meat Month in Japan. We're very excited about the prospects for U.S. meat in this market.
USMEF celebrated American Meat Month in Japan with a whirlwind of activities that included the appearance of Baseball Hall of Fame pitcher Nolan Ryan throwing the first pitch in front of 15,000 fans at a Japanese Major League game.
Felt very good about being the U.S. Beef Ambassador this week in America. Obviously, summertime, baseball season, and grilling season all tie in very well, and so we felt like that was a natural fit here in Japan, and so I was quite excited about it.
Also importantly, I think you attend an event like this evening here with the baseball game is the excitement of the Japanese people of having the American beef and American pork offered, and the nutritional value and quality that brings.
Prior to the game, Ryan promoted U.S. meat with Japanese baseball fans. The former baseball star, who is now a Texas beef producer, also visited retail stores to see USMEF consumer promotions in action.
I think that MEF has done a great job of tying our product in with the beef community here in Japan and developing a partnership there where they work with the Japanese industry not only to bring the product in but to promote the product.
USMEF activities in Japan are funded by the USDA and producer checkoff dollars. I'm Brian Baxter reporting.
Both Nolan Ryan and the USMEF says it's important to educate foreign consumers about the quality and safety of U.S. beef.
Our Quarter Pounder with cheese is made from 100% pure USDA beef. That means there's 0% anything else. That's what we're made of.
People have different views of what they think's attractive. And while a Select Vac tag doesn't do anything for this dog, it certainly makes calves more attractive to buyers. In fact, SelectVac calves attract up to $29 more per head. No wonder millions of calves have already been enrolled. Ask your veterinarian or animal health supplier about SelectVac, the premier branded preconditioning program, and raise more attractive calves.
Cattle feeding and ethanol production are sometimes seen as competing interests, but in Meade, Nebraska, they go hand in hand. Manure from a feedlot is used to power the local ethanol plant, while the byproduct the plant produces is fed to area cattle. Cattlemen to Cattlemen's Jim Witt takes a closer look at this breakthrough in bioenergy.
With the high price of corn these days, you would think a feedlot and an ethanol plant might not get along so well. But here in Meade, Nebraska, they don't just coexist. They've teamed up in a way that's innovative, efficient, and great for the environment.
Over the last few years, we've been dealing with some people that wanted to utilize our manure to make methane and fuel an ethanol plant and then feed the byproduct from the ethanol plant back to the cattle. So it's an interesting concept where our manure, which is clean, it's down in a pit underneath these barns, we'll be utilizing an anaerobic digester, make methane from it, and then we'll have compost and nitrogen and gray water come out of that process that we can sell and use ourselves. And the byproduct from the ethanol plant will be fed to the cattle here at the feed yard. So you've got a closed loop system here.
The key component is an anaerobic digester that turns everyday cow manure into valuable natural gas.
Anaerobic digestion's been around for thousands of years. It's just now that here in the United States we're understanding the value of anaerobic digestion, both from the environmental side and from the energy production side. We got about 30,000 head in the feedlot, and they'll make enough manure along with some of the byproduct out of the ethanol plant, essentially the thin stillage. Those two products will make, we think, about 2 million cubic foot of biogas a day.
One of the criticisms of ethanol is that it often requires a lot of fossil fuel to produce. But that's not the case at the E3 biofuels plant.
Our only fuel is biogas, which is generated in the anaerobic digesters from the thin stillage and the cattle manure here at the feedlot. So we're not going to rely on outside natural gas to produce the ethanol. So that gives us a big cost advantage over most conventional ethanol plants in that natural gas is the second highest expense after corn in most conventional ethanol plants.
The adjacent feedlot not only helps power the plant, it also makes the byproduct easier and more efficient to feed.
We'll feed the wet cake as it is without drying it directly to the cattle on site here. Most conventional ethanol plants have to dry their stillage into dry distiller's grain to ship it some distance to a feedlot. And since we're co-located, we won't have to dry it. And that'll save us quite a bit of energy too, because about a third of the natural gas that's burned in most conventional plants goes for drying that distiller's grain.
The plant and the feedlot also team up to buy corn, which they get from local farmers.
We're utilizing the personnel in the feedlot to buy all of our corn. We'll buy about 8 bushels for every one that they buy, but they've got a reputation here, and they know the local farmers, and they've worked with them as far as scheduling deliveries and payments.
When it comes to keeping things local, these guys have it down to a science.
Most of the ethanol we make here will probably stay within a 100-mile radius, and it'll all be trucked out. All the corn will also be trucked in, so it'll come from local area farmers. But we're located in Saunders County, which is the largest corn-producing county in the state of Nebraska, so most of our corn will come from in close.
Meade Cattle Company also enjoys an advantage over most feedlots when it comes to manure management.
We'll be a lot more popular with our neighbors as well.
While still in its early stages, this arrangement looks very promising.
Yeah, there's some tricky parts to this whole process. Cattle manure has its own challenges as far as digestion, but preliminary results and so far I think we'll be able to meet 90 to 100% of our gas needs for the ethanol plant.
Reporting from Meade, Nebraska, this is Jim Witt for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
For more on this unique approach to ethanol production, check out our website at cattlementocattlemen.org. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Don't forget to check us out on the web at cattlementocattlemen.org. We'll be back with another edition next week at 8:30 Eastern Time right here on RFD TV.